go. So I'm just going to start reviewing for your algebra test with this. What if I had a whole bunch of little parts to a question like the square root of 81 over 9 minus negative 6, and then I had divided by 1/2. And that's got a whole bunch of little parts. But one step at a time, it's not that bad. Are there any parentheses here? Yes. Now, I want you to remember that square roots, they're like parentheses. So that square root, that's like a parenthesis and an exponent kind of combined. So that's one of the first things you would do because it's part of a parenthesis. And this parenthesis isn't really doing much. It was just kind of like separating the negative 6. So it's really 9 minus negative 6. And so that's not too hard to do. And then hopefully you remember how to divide fractions. I will never divide fractions. I would change them to multiplies. See if you remember how to do that. I'm going to pause for a second. And there is a kid right across from you. And when you're done, I want you to compare. I'll remind you who your partner is here. All right, square root of 81 was 9. 9 plus 6, 15. Divided by 1/2. I said I'd never do divide. I'd change it to times by, flip it, 2. 18 over 15. Can I leave it that way? No, you got to reduce it. Excuse me, sir. Focus, focus. So this one is 9 times 2 over, that was useless. Nothing cancels each other, so that wasn't a great reduce. But I could have done 5 times 3 and 6 times 3, and then I'd know it was 6/5. Raise your hand if you had 6 over 5. Okay, good. So there's the first kind. Would you agree that is not too hard? Especially not on a test where you can get 75% and still get an A. All right. So, of course, they get harder. Here's one that's shouldn't be hard, but a few people are going to forget. Can you figure out the slope of that? Good. Figure out the slope of that. Now in algebra, there's 3 forms of an equation that you could write for this. Do you remember this kind where you'd like put the slope here and you'd have the y-intercept like there? Y equals mx plus b. Do you guys remember that one? Yeah. Okay, that one's called slope, something slope or slope-intercept. Very good. That one's called slope-intercept. You gotta know that one. So if I say put this equation into slope-intercept form, at least you could know what the question was, which was like put it like this. Okay, I wouldn't ever start with that form though, because and this made an impact on me when the calculus teacher, which is where you're all headed eventually. Next year's pre-calc, year after that is calculus. The calculus teacher told me, we use this one way more. She said, tell the kids they're not even going to use this y equals mx plus b anymore. That was for like the middle school. You're going to almost always use that form I just wrote. And if you don't know that form, you better write it down. And it's got a name, and I'll remind you, but somebody will know it. Point slope. Good. We did one of these yesterday, but I'll remind you. Point slope is super useful because do you get, I just gave you points and you already know how to figure out the slope. So you have points and a slope. Right? So you can use this. All right, let's save some time. What was the slope? Say it if you know it. -4. Or is it just -4? Or is it -4/3? Okay. All right, so I just didn't want to have to take the time. I suppose I should show it was this minus this over that minus that. And I'm hearing -4/3. So far, I'm setting it up. And I've left a spot here and here because I should put the what there. In those 2 circles, what goes there? Hint, it's called point slope. That's where you put the point. Okay, now which point should I pick? Well, I would pick the easier one. This has no negatives, so it is guaranteed going to be easier because you can't mess up a negative. One more negative can't help. So I'm going to put the x is 2 right here, and the y is 3 right there. And a lot of kids are like, now I have to multiply it out. No, you don't. That is called point slope. And on your worksheet for today, one of the questions is like, actually it was even yesterday's, had point slope in it too. And some people thought that this was like the wrong way to leave your answer. No, this is it. That's the right answer for point slope. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless they've asked you to get them this form. What if you needed to get it in that form? Well, then all you'd have to do is solve for y, which means, I guess you'd have to like distribute out, and we're not even going to do it right now because this one's really messy. But do you get, we could, if we wanted to, multiply this times this and this times that, and then add 3 to both sides, and then it would have been solved for y, and then you could do it if you wanted to. All right. And then there's this last form, which is called standard form. Is y equals 6x plus 4 in standard form? No, that is not standard form, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. Would you agree that it's legal to do that? Yeah. Okay, so then I have negative 6x plus y, that y is positive, equals 4. That is in standard form. You guys remember that form? We have an x first, and then the y part, and then the number. If you forgot it before, you got to learn it now. That's called standard form. So if I ever ask you for standard form, you just got to like move it, rearrange it until the x is in front, and then the y is next, and then there's a number. All right. 0 kids last hour could answer this question I'm about to ask you. And let's see if anybody in here knows. I asked, why is this not in standard form? Let's see if anybody here knows. You say, Dorson.
Because there's a form y?
Nope. There can be a number on that y. That is not the reason. What do you think?
It's because there's a fraction.
Yes. You can't have fractions. Have you heard me say that most high school teachers like to get rid of the fractions? We clear the fractions. It's even a math rule in standard form that you can't leave it with fractions. Now, here comes the next part. Most kids know you're supposed to times by 3 then, but then they go like that. And what's wrong with that? You're leaving the 4y out. And if some kids are like, but you're doing it on both sides, what's wrong with that? Well, you could say it 2 ways. You got to distribute the 3 to both parts. Or, would you agree that 1 plus 7 is equal to 8? If I just times this by 2 and times that by 2, is it going to work? No, I got to multiply all the parts by 2. Then it'd be 2 plus 14 is 16. I guess it works if you multiply everything by 2. See how you have to multiply 2 2's? All right, so when we multiply everything by 3, don't forget the 4y. It needs to be multiplied by 3 too, also. All right, so go ahead and do that, and then your equation will be in standard form. The only thing that was wrong with it was it had a fraction here. So I'm going to multiply this by 3 also. That cancels. 2x plus 12y equals 6. Do you guys agree that that is in standard form now? It is. Now, would you please solve it for y so it'll be in slope-intercept? Solve it for y. That way it'll be in slope-intercept form. It'll be like y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept. I know you did this, but I know it's been a long time. If you forgot how to start, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I'd have 12y is equal to negative 2x plus 6. I wanted to put that x in the front there of the right side. And then, to get rid of the 12, I'm dividing by 12 everywhere. And 2 twelfths is like 1/6. It's negative. You could have said x over 6, or 1/6 x, plus 6 over 12 is 1/2. This form of an equation doesn't care if you have fractions in it. Do you get if we were doing standard form, we'd have to multiply everything by 6, and that would get rid of our fractions? But this isn't standard form. Yes?
Like,
Question?
when
Did
we
I mess up? I
multiply
could have messed up.
Like, when we multiply by 3, it could be simplified by, like, dividing it back.
Wait.
Like, we divide
Like
it
back
all
here. When we multiplied everything by 3,
by- we divide that out by 2 as well.
and we divide it by 2 as well.
After we finish multiplying.
Oh, could you have taken this and divided everything by 2? You could have. That's legal. But the point was to try to get this down to just y equals. And as long as you got it down to y equals at the end, yeah, you could have. That was legal. Could do that. Okay, so what form is this again? Slope intercept. So this is the kind of form where you can see the x-intercept. No, you don't. You see the what? Y-intercept. So what if they say, what's the x-intercept? You got to remember that saying I said yesterday. The x-intercept is where y is 0. And you just stick in 0 and you'd solve it. Do it. The x-intercept is where y is 0. And the y-intercept is where x is 0. All this algebra, I know you know it, I know you've seen it, but it has been a long time. So your job tonight is, I'm going to give you a worksheet at the end of the hour. You'll have a bunch of work time. Cell phones better not come out between now and when I start work time. But once work time starts, you can take the cell phone out and listen to a little music if you want to. You're working on your homework. And then you should strong recommend check it against the answer key. I'm giving you the answer key too, so you aren't just stuck at home like, I don't know how to do number 6. You can look at the key. It shows you the work. And if you still need help, you're going to have to like use a lifeline or something, because tomorrow morning is not one of my morning help times. Do you remember where to find my morning help times? Right up there, Tuesday and Thursday, 7:05. So there was one kid who was smart enough to come in this morning, got a bunch of his questions answered. Feels way better now, I know. And then some of you guys might come in Thursday morning, but our test is Wednesday, so you're not going to have a chance to come in the morning to get more help. One thing I want to remind you about is that everybody in here has the same exact questions and same exact key, and you could ask anybody. So during class, when you start this worksheet, what you should really do is go, I know this one, I know this one, I know this one. You should skip all the ones you know, because this is a great place to get help. You know, the kids next to you know how to do it. I know how to do it. If you get stuck at home, way worse. So I would go skip all the easy ones on the worksheet. I'd be like, this is easy, 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 easy. Oh, I'm going to work on the hard ones here. And do the hard ones while you're in class. Because the easy ones you can do at home, and there's a key for the easy ones too. All right, so that would be the smart way to do your worksheet today, is to skip the easy ones and do the ones that scare you in class where you can get help. Okay, the x-intercept is where y equals 0. I'm putting a 0 where the y is. And then I would start by subtracting 1/2 from both sides. And I now have negative 1/2 equals negative 1/6 x. And then I've got negatives all over the place. And I really wish I could get rid of the fractions. You can. I'm going to times by 6 on both sides, because it'll fix my fraction problem. That's gone. I no longer have a fraction. Negative 1x is the same as negative x. And 6, this is a multiply. 6 times 1/2 is 3, and it's negative, so it's negative 3. I know a lot of you did it a different way, but at the end, did you get x equals 3? Raise your hand if you got x equals 3. Awesome. I like to clear the fractions out, so that's why I multiplied by 6 right here. It's because I got rid of my fractions all at once. All right. So, there's a gajillion little skills, But if you can do this problem that I'm about to give you, then you'll be able to do almost everything on the test. Almost everything has to do with what I'm about to do. So pay really close attention to this one. Okay? Could you believe that that might be 1 comma 5? Does that seem somewhat reasonable? Okay. And could you believe that that could be 7 comma 1? All right. Tell me a ton of things that I could ask you about these 2 points. Tell me one thing to start with. Slope. That's one thing you'd be expected to do. Don't do it yet. Just wait. What else could I ask? Yes?
Y-intercept.
The y-intercept. Even though it isn't touching yet, you could figure out what the slope is, and you could figure out where it's going to hit the y-intercept. Yes. But that's kind of hard. But yeah, that's something I could ask you. And the way I would do it is I would use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's called point slope, because I got 2 points. I can figure out the slope, so I can use point slope. Point slope is going to be the handiest thing on the test amount. All right. And then what else could I ask you? He said y-intercept. How about x-intercept? Would you agree that's also something that could be figured out? Do you agree that there's a slope-intercept equation that could be written? Do you get you could change that into standard form? Do you get that it could be in point slope? There's 3 different forms of an equation here. There's x-intercept, there's a y-intercept, there's graphing the line that goes through them. That's pretty easy, just draw a line through them. So let's just do one thing of this. Would you please tell me what equation can you get using this? And just to keep our life simple, everybody use 1 comma 5 as your point. Either could work, but we want your answers to look alike. So just use 1 comma 5 as the point. Okay? And then stick the numbers in here, and we'll go from there. Yes? Okay. Yeah, please don't. Not yet. Off to the side, I hope some of you are figuring out the slope. You got to figure out the slope. Did you get negative 2/3? Okay, excellent. You started well. And I said to use this point. If you missed that, go back and fix it. Use 1 comma 5. Do you get how we now have an equation? Okay. Now, that is a certain form of an equation. Which one is this again? Point slope. Would you please go and solve it for y? That'll give you slope intercept. Solve it for y. You might find it annoying that there's a fraction in it. You can clear the fraction. It's a lot easier without fractions. But right now you're trying to solve for y. And it'll look like this when you're done. Y equals negative 2/3 x, blah, blah, blah. Unless you clear the fraction, which you can do. Totally legal. Solve it for y. All right. Do you know how to do this? Negative 2/3 times the x and negative 2/3 times the negative 1. So you get negative 2/3 x plus 2/3. That's not that hard. And then it's y minus 5. So then have I solved for y yet? Not quite. Got to add 5 to both sides. Now that's not going to work real nice because you don't have a common denominator. But negative 2/3 x, and this is now 5 and 2/3. And that's not okay. You can't leave it like that. Now, I would accept 5.6 repeating. That's legal. It would be accurate. But even better, do you know how to make that 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17/3? If you'd forgotten that, you should probably remember that. You go that times that, and you add that. Ring a bell? Okay. So if I do it that way, it'll be really clean when I clear the fraction out. Do you have to clear the fraction? No. But do you get, if I want it to not have a fraction anymore, because, why would I not want fractions? What form do you think I'm going to do next? Standard form doesn't allow fractions. So, put it in standard form. You'll have to clear the fraction to do it. James Savage is on absent. Compare your standard form answer to the kid next to you.
Oh yeah, because we add.
Okay. Let's see what you thought. Did you multiply everything by 3? Which I don't have to rearrange it to do that. It's like this. And then 3y equals negative 2x plus 17. And then I just rearrange it so the x is in front. 2x plus 3y equals 17. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Cool. Okay. you've covered pretty much everything. Like, if you can do all of those things, then you'll probably be fine on the test. But I need you to have some time to work. But I have one last thing that I think might confuse you when we test you on it because of the format. Like, if I just ask you this, everybody last hour was fine with this. Like, they had no problem telling me. Does this have a positive slope? Yes. Does it have a positive y-intercept? No. Does it have a positive x-intercept?
Yes.
All right. But if I give this equation a name, y equals ax, and you might be like, ew, I like it to be mx plus b. What if I call it ax plus c? I can call it anything I want. What would you be able to tell me about a? See, it's more confusing. Oh, it's positive. Would you agree a is greater than 0 would be a safe statement? What could you tell me about c? There you go. I guess I caught on to it faster than I thought. Okay. Let's do one more like that. Let's call it y equals qx plus b. And here's my line. What can you say about q? Q is less than 0, and b? Greater than 0. All right. And if I asked you for the x-intercept, not the y-intercept, the y-intercept is b. If I asked you for the x-intercept and said solve it, what would you start doing? If I asked you for the x-intercept? Y equals 0, good. And then solve it. Would your gut feeling be to solve for q or b or x? X. Yeah, very good. Solve for x. Do it. Solve that for x. It's not that hard. I know it's got letters in it, but that's okay. So I was trying to find the x-intercept because I set y equal to 0. Would you subtract b from both sides? Did you know to do that?
Yep.
Awesome. Negative b is equal to qx. And then now what? Divide by q. This is called a literal equation because it's got multiple variables. Final answer was negative b over q. Okay. Now, you have a bunch of time, and there's one question that a ton of kids got wrong, and let's see if you would have the right gut feeling on this. A ton of kids couldn't do that. Couldn't simplify this. What do you think we should do first? Distribute is an okay answer, but there was another, I think, a little better answer. Yes?
You can divide the 2 into 4 on the bottom.
All right. But I'm going to do what you said, but I'm going to replace the 4 with a 2 times 2 because it follows my rule. If you can factor it, you should. See, I factored the 4. And now what should you do? Cancel out the 2. Good. And now a lot of people are like, well, I can't do anything else here. Yes, you can. What do you think this simplifies to? Nope. There isn't an equation. If it said like equals 5, we could, but you can't multiply by 2. All right. See if you understand what I just did. X divided by the 2, and the 4 divided by the 2 gives you x over 2 plus 2. You see, this can be divided by the 2, and separately that can be divided by the 2. There's one like that on your homework. I'm going to give you one more like it. Let's make sure you get this. Let's say you had distributed the top first, and it looked like this. 4x plus 6 over 2. Divide them separately by 2. right now it's all divided by 2, but you could have that as 2 separate divides. Do you get that that's just 2x plus 3? Cool. There's something like that on your worksheet. Watch out for it. Okay, so now you have a whole bunch of time. You have a worksheet. Remember my suggestion? Do the ones that scare you. Do the hard ones now, because you got help right next to you and up here. And then the easy ones you can leave for later at home. But finish this puppy off and you'll be ready for your test. That's all I got for you for today.